who is the seed of the great race. See, he just explained it right there. Or from whom it comes. There it is. It's explained it right there. Verse 9. After those days, the eternal knowledge of the Yah of truth withdrew from me, and your mother Hawa. And you see that now he's telling them, now he's explaining to him that whole knowledge of Yah is leaving from him. Now he's becoming ignorant of the fact of what happened. You see what I'm saying? He's saying that Yah's knowledge, Yah's that light, that Ruach is leaving him. Since that time we have learned about dead things. You see, you learned about things that aren't eternal anymore. Now you're seeing flowers die. You're seeing sickness. You're seeing, pestilence. Flies, bugs, and things like that. Just everything negative. Now you're learning about that. You're learning about death now because he sees himself getting older. Because at the time, now remember, this is when Adam was about 700 years old. You see, this was after his son Abel had died. This is after Cain had fled, and they're steadily repopulating the earth. So he's learning about different things. He's learning about hardships, which Yah said when Yah pronounced those punishments on Adam and Eve back in Genesis. We didn't read that. We just skipped down to verses 20 and 21. Well, no, I'm sorry, 21 and 22 when we read. But if you go back in there and you read the entire third chapter, you see after Yah pronounces that curse on Satan, how Yah cursed us to toil the field. You see what I'm saying? And these are the things that Adam's learning about now. He's learning about hardship, toil, struggle, and all of that stuff. Alright. We learned about dead things, like men. Then we recognize the mighty one who created us, for we were not strangers to his powers, and we served him in fear and in subjection. And afterwards our hearts were darkened. So you see, before, they were giving reverence to Yah, everything was nice. But after them eating of the forbidden fruit, and they found out about the wrath of Yah, now they worship Yah in fear and subjection. So, there's two different ages going on here. It's two different types. It's two different things now. You see. Now, let's go to the book of Enoch. And we're gonna explain that whole glory thing. But first, before we do that, this is why I have this book right here, this Dictionary of Freemasonry, because of course, the wicked, they know truth. Look at this right here, all of this idolatrous worship right here. You got the compass and the square right here. The compass meaning direction, the square meaning exactness, I guess. And then you got the hammer and the plumb right there. Then you got this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-point star. Wicked. Idolatrous worship. Yah says you should not make any engraven images or anything like that. Or you should not worship, you shall not make any carved images or anything like that. Look at this right here on the back. You can just see the demonic influence on this, But anyway, we're going to cover all of that in the second part of this lesson and in later lessons. So I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself because I get excited sometimes and I have to calm myself down. I'll be out here talking all night. And we don't need that. But now, this particular term that the Masons use for Yah's esteem or Yah's Ruach, they call it Shekinah. And there's no coincidence that they use that word, as we're going to see here in a couple seconds. Alright, now it says Shekinah. This is page 664 in the Masonic Dictionary. And it says, a beam of glory. This beam shone upon Abel and his sacrifice, and is thought by some to have been the moving cause of Cain's envy. Yah testified in his approbation of Abraham's sacrifice by the same glory, which, like the flame of a lamp, passed between the sacrifices, the pillar of a cloud, and the clouds which filled the tabernacle and the temple were of the same nature. And according to the scriptures, they have Jehovah in here, where Yah, but they say Jehovah, and then they have Christ, which they mean Yahushua, for they say St. Paul, what they mean Shaul, tells the Jews that these bright effulgence, I'm going to spell it out because I don't want to butcher this word, it's Effulgencies, vouchsafed to their ancestors were beams of glory from the eternal Son of Yah. You see that's that Ruach, that's that Shekinah as they call it, but that's that light. Alright, now, that's from the worldly standpoint. Let's go ahead and let's go to the book of Enoch and let's get it from a scriptural standpoint. It's always good to, every time you go to these other books, or even when you go to like the non-canonical books, or the books that aren't in the scriptures, it's always good to see if they line up with other scriptures. You see, so it's always good to have more, one or two scriptures to vouch for it. It's very important. Because sometimes, as we're about to see here in a couple seconds, we see that these people like to throw their own influences in here. Okay, now we're going to go to the Pseudepigrapha Volume 1 here. And in case you guys are wondering why I got notes and things like that written on the computer, that's why I keep gazing down at the computer every now and again. Now, this is, again, Pseudepigrapha Volume 1. Now we are in the third Enoch, and this is chapter 5. As we know, our Aki Enoch, he had numerous writings, but unfortunately, due to the sons of Satan, they have extracted or stolen most, if not, they stole a good deal of the books. I believe it was close to 360 or 300 some odd books that the Ak wrote. So just imagine if there's that much information in these few books that we have, just imagine about the information that's not there. The imagination Just imagine about the information that they don't want you to know. Alright, now this is, again, this is 3rd Enoch, this is the 5th chapter, and we're going to read verses 1 through, verse 1 through 8. We'll stop at verse 8. And this is Yah removing the Shekinah. So, alright, now it starts off. Our Ishmael said to Metatron, Prince of the Divine Presence, Metatron, Prince of the Divine Presence, said to me, from that day the Holy One, blessed he be, banished the first man from the Garden of Eden. The Shekinah resided on a cherub beneath the tree of life. The ministering angels used to muster and come down from heaven in companies and in bands and in cohorts from heaven to execute his will. And in all the earth, the first man and his generation dwelt at the gate of the Garden of Eden. So even after Adam and Hawa were expelled from the garden, they would still go by the garden just to stand by this Shekinah, or this light, or Yah's Ruach. Let's see here. Let me go back. Where did I leave off? Okay, all right. Of the Garden of Eden, so that they might gaze at the bright image of the Shekinah, or brilliance of that Shekinah, radiated from one end of the world to the other, 365,000 times more brightly than the sun. See that right there? So this light, this ambience, this ruach that Yah possessed at the base of this tree shine more brightly than the sun, 365,000 times, in fact, brighter than the sun. And it shone from one end of the earth to the other. So this thing is pretty bright, you see. Now check this out right here. Anyone who gazed at the brightness of this Shekinah was not troubled by flies or gnats, by sickness or pain. Malicious demons were not able to harm him, and even the angels had no power over him. So at this time, after Adam and Hawa, or Eve, were expelled from the garden, and after they began to repopulate the earth, we know that the fallen ones, or not the fallen ones, but the watchers, had came down with the sons of men and had, were teaching them all types of wicked things. So if they were just to stand in front of this gate and stand in the light of this Shekinah, they weren't troubled by these things. They weren't troubled by pestilence. They weren't troubled by sickness or anything like that. When the Holy One, blessed he be, went out and in from the garden to Eden, and from Eden to the garden, and from the garden to heaven, and from heaven to the Garden of Eden, all gazed at the bright image of his Shekinah, and were unharmed until the coming of the generation of Enosh, who was the chief of all the idolaters in the world. And we're going to verify that when we go into the book of Jasher right here. We're going to see just in fact what it was that Enosh was doing, and what his ancestors were doing, and what we're continuing to do. Verse 7. What did the men of Enosh's generation do? They roamed the world from one end to the other, and each of them amassed silver, gold, precious stones, and pearls in mountainous heaps and piles. In the four quarters of the world they fashioned unto them idols, and each quarter they set up idols about 1,000 parasangs, and parasangs is just a unit of measurement, 1,000 parasangs, and stationed them before the idols, to the right and to the left, to serve them in the way that they serve the Holy One, blessed he be, as it was written. So you see, in the time of Enosh, this is when people were, this is right around the same time, well, this is in fact the same time that the Watchers were coming down and influencing man to do evil and wicked things and worship them as gods. And there we go. And that's the origin of God worship right there. So now, right now we have established, we have the foundation of the forbidden knowledge when it comes to Adam and Hawa eating of the forbidden fruit. And now we're going to go into the origin of gods. You see, because these people weren't amassing all this gold, silver, and stuff like that for nothing. You know, they didn't know about it. Somebody had to tell them about it. And war and all of that stuff like that. About to get into it right now. So I just wanted to share that with you guys about that Shekinah, that brightness, that Ruach. Check this out. This is something right here. Have you guys ever heard of someone say, wow, man, you know, that brother's he's got a glow about him, and that brother's got an aura, that man, I just like being around that person, man. I feel a good vibe when I'm with them. Conversely, have you ever heard somebody say, man, I don't like being around dude. I get a bad vibe whenever I'm around that person. Or do you know somebody, when you just see them, it just evokes just a negative energy in you? It's the same thing. When you see somebody and when they're doing the will of Yah, you know it instantaneously. Getting back to what I was saying before with little Zuri, you know, when they see that child, a lot of children have Yah's Ruach on them. You see what I'm saying? Because they still have that innocence. So instantaneously, when that man saw that little boy walk in front of him, he saw, you know, the image of Yah. What is the image of Yah? Love, truth, righteousness, right ruling, you know, purity. That's what he saw in that child when he looked at him. And instantaneously, that demon left. And when you have the spiritual eyes to see, you can almost see that demon just jump up, because he looked like, you know how people say, man, look like you seen a ghost. That was a look he had in his face. But anyway, that is the whole breakdown on the whole Shekinah thing, that, you know, that Ruach, you know, just Yah's Ruach on you. That's why, you know, like I said before, when Enoch, man, when he would come back, he would leave, and then we'd come back to the people were frightened of him, because he had this look at, man, he had Yah's Ruach on him so heavy, you know, they were ashamed. They knew what they were doing was wrong. And that's what we're about to get into right now. That's why, again, Adam and Hawa hid from Yah, because they couldn't stand in Yah's presence. Alright, so just wanted to give you guys that real quick. Now let's go to Jasher chapter 2, verses 1 through 13, and then we're going to read about Enosh. We're going to see just what it was that Enosh and his people did that made Yah so upset. We're going to validate it through Scripture. This ain't just what Brother Moshe saying. This is what thus says Yah. So we're going to go ahead and break this down. Again, that's the book of Jasher, chapter 2, verses 1 through 13. Right. And here we go. And it was in the 130th year in the life of Adam upon the earth that he again knew his wife Hawa. And she conceived and bore a son in his image, in his likeness and in his image. And I see that what he was talking about with the two ages, as we read before in the Apocalypse of Adam. And she called his name Seth, saying, because Yah has appointed me another seed in the place of Abel, for Cain has slain him. And Seth lived 105 years, and he begat a son. And Seth called the name of his son Enosh, saying, because in that time the sons of men began to multiply and afflict their souls and hearts by transgressing and rebelling against Yah. So you see, that verifies what we were just reading before, how they were saying that the men went from the four corners of the earth. Why Yah's Shekinah was removed, or Yah's Ruach was removed from these people? Well, because rightfully so, they're doing wrong. Why should Yah give you his set apart spirit when you're not deserving of it? You see? And that's just like Scripture saying faith without works is dead. Or if you don't work, you don't eat. That's what that Scripture means. If you don't work, meaning doing the will of Yah, doing Yah's work, you don't eat. You see, and that's what we're about to see right here when they say that thorns and thistles grew up. Again, further validating what we just read. Well, if you would continue to read in the 3rd chapter of Genesis, when Yah pronounced those curses on men and women. You know, women giving birth in pain and men having to work in toil. You see what I'm saying? So let's go ahead and read. Now, and it was in the this is verse 3. And this was in the days of Enosh that the sons of men continued to rebel and transgress against Yah, to increase the anger of the Most High Yah against the sons of man. And the sons of men went out and they served gods. It says other gods, but we know what it is. They served gods. You see that? Again, the origin of the gods. Who were these guys? These guys were the watchers, of course. We're going to read about that in a couple seconds. And they forgot the Most High Yah, and that's what Adam was talking about when he did in his apocalypse, when he was talking to his son Seth. He forgot Yah. You see what I'm saying? That's what